welcome to Drummer Daily, the daily companion for your drumming life. My name's Daniel, the drum coach, and I am so happy you're here. Hey, by the way, I know I mentioned this a few episodes ago, but you might have heard that every episode I like to start it out with a little drum fill of some kind. Like I said, I've got a few different ones that I'm going to use. I will repeat them sometimes, but I've got a few in the bank, so we can switch it up every once in a while. But hey, some of them are modern, some of them are a little bit old school, but they're all drum fills or like the intros of songs that have drums. And so if you think you know what one is, some of them are easier than others, definitely. And some are a little more obscure than others. They're more down the line of like certain bands that I listen to. But I'd love for you to send in your best guess or post it on social media. Take a screenshot of the episode, whichever one it is, and mention me at Daniel Hadaway on any of the social media stuff or on Facebook at the Daniel Hadaway, and let me know what you think. If you think you know what song it is, give me your best guess. I'm not saying there's going to be a prize or anything, but maybe I'll shout out some of you guys on an upcoming episode if you guess it right. All right, so today I want to talk about something that might be a little polarizing. I'm hoping it's not, but I have a feeling it probably is going to be. And that is all of these drum educational websites that you can pay for and learn drumming from. And there are several of these. I'm not going to name any of them by name, but there's a lot of them. And I have noticed a trend in all, not in the websites themselves, and people who are using the websites. And it concerns me a little bit enough that I thought I wanted to use today's episode as a little bit of a warning, but also a little bit of guidance on how to use those websites if you're going to take part in that, and maybe how not to take part in those if you go that route. And so basically there are three kind of core uses for all of these websites. The ones, and you know what I'm talking about, the ones you see ads from all the time, people share videos from all the time. And interestingly, like the videos that I always see shared are not really educational at all. And I think that might be on purpose. I don't know anybody who runs any of these sites personally. I know they're all, the ones that I know of, I know they're really wonderful people, and they are definitely trying to contribute to the drum community. And so I'm not in any way questioning or doubting what they're doing. And a lot of these sites are putting out tons of great content for drummers, and they're helping the drum community by and large. And so I want to be clear, I'm not bashing any of this. And so, but I think that the videos that get shared a lot are marketing tools, and I do the same kind of thing. So I definitely am not knocking that. But the material that gets shared is supposed to be, something that's exciting and entertaining to watch, to get your attention, to look more into these companies, and then possibly join up and buy in and start getting some online lessons or video tutorial type things. And so, like I said, there are the kind of three core reasons why people seem to join these sites. And I think two of the three aren't really going to give you any progress and meaningful progress in your drumming. And so I want you, if you are part of one of these, you're thinking about joining one of these, to look at why it is that you're interested in these and make sure that you're going to get the most out of them while being a part of them. And again, I'm not encouraging you to not to be involved in these. In fact, just the opposite. If you find something that's interesting, you think it can help you grow your drumming, by all means, you should do it. But the first use for these sites is what I just mentioned, which is entertainment. And I think that entertainment, I'm going to use that as a broad word to describe a few different things. One is entertainment from the sense of um, just the way we think about watching a TV show or anything else, a fictional TV show. It's something that just it takes up our time and we get enjoyment out of watching it. And I'm gonna circle back to that in a second. That idea, this idea in a second. But I want to mention the other side of it. The other side of entertainment, what I'm talking about is the mental kind of education, the learning from the mental perspective, the understanding of something or the thinking about something or the excitement of and potential of learning new things, kind of the educational aspect. But I still kind of file that under entertainment. I think you'll understand why in a second. But either of these, in and of themselves, are not bad reasons to do anything. If I honestly, like, if you're a musician and you have to pick between paying for a Netflix subscription and one of these sites, if you're really into music and you decide that it's more entertaining for you to sign up for one of these drum sites, sign up for the drum site. That's great if you're watching it for entertainment and that's what you're doing. The problem is that a lot of us get involved in these sites and we are not being honest with ourselves about why we're doing it. We're not being honest with ourselves, and we may not be honest with others about why we are participating in these sites. A lot of us get addicted to learning new things and never put anything into practice, never take that first step on the journey to actually doing something with all this stuff we're learning. We're addicted to stuffing our heads full of more and more and more and more and more knowledge. And maybe this podcast is even part of the problem for you. Maybe you should stop listening to this podcast for a while and focus on your drumming instead of listening to someone talk about drumming. If I'm taking the place of actual drumming, or I'm preventing you from actually playing the drums, I hope that's not the case. I hope that I'm encouraging you to actually do something. But if I am in the way, I hope you stop listening to this podcast and do something else. But I think a lot of us end up using these sites as a fill-in for practice or for doing something more risky with our own playing, getting out there, putting ourselves out there, trying to learn something, trying to learn a new song, trying to get better with the click track, trying to work on developing relationships with other musicians, whatever that thing is. A lot of us are so addicted to learning. We think if we just can learn and hear that one magic thing, someone can tell us that one piece of advice, all of a sudden everything will be unlocked for us and we'll be ready to be professional drummers, or the drummer we always dreamed of being, whatever that is. Even if it's not professional, just we're waiting. We keep trying to learn and learn and learn, and we never actually put anything to practice. So if you are wanting to make progress in your drumming, but you're only watching these videos for entertainment, which a lot of them are very entertaining. A lot of them, that's their primary use, because a lot of these, it's impossible to learn anything from these guys. A lot of these, like, I used to watch all these DVDs. There's one in particular that I won't mention by name, but there's one that I used to watch all the time, and it would drive me crazy because the guy would, and this is not just him, so there's a lot of these like this, but he would slow down his patterns and show you how he played something, which is great and really insightful. But then if you'd watch as he would slowly speed up the pattern, because that's what they always do, at a certain point he stopped doing the thing. He wasn't even following the pattern that he told you he was playing. He started playing something different. And a lot of these things are like that on these videos. So just be honest with yourself about why you're doing this, and what, if you're watching it for entertainment, what it can and can't do for you. So that's reason one, entertainment. Reason number two is, and this is probably, honestly, I'm going to guess between entertainment, this might be the number one, and this other reason, this might be the number one, but definitely between this and entertainment, these are the two major reasons people subscribe to these sites. And that is I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. It's like the next great lick. I just want to learn something really impressive to show my other drummer friends, or something I can post on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, and try to impress somebody. And a lot of times guys will post like, I'm working on this lesson by so-and-so, and the video is not, you're not working on the lesson. You think you've mastered it and you're showing off, trying to get someone to, give you some internet points for what you just played. And so there's a lot of useful stuff in there. But if you're just watching it to pick up on a new thing that'll impress your friends, think about like what your drumming is going to turn into if you do this for a year or two. You're going to be like this weird Frankenstein mashup of a lot of crazy drum fills without any musical context or kind of a backbone of music to kind of tie it all together and hold it all together. It's just going to be a lot of crazy licks and stuff that you've compiled in your head, and then you're going to be like a drum lick machine when you show up to a gig or whatever, because you're going to have just a bunch of these crazy fills and stuff that don't really have any musical context, and that's going to be your whole kind of musical language. And so it can be tempting because that's a lot of these videos are crafted in a way that say, here's, I want to teach you this really cool fill you can do, you know, in this or that. And then you do it and it's like, all right, I got that. Now what? And it's like, I'm gonna go learn another fill. I'm gonna learn another fill. And pretty soon, again, like I said, your whole musical language is just nothing but fills. And so beware if that's you. That's not my kind of drumming. There's certainly nothing wrong with learning something like that. Like if that's your relationship with drumming, then like go for it. Like that's the thing. But honestly, if just learning the next big insane drum fill or drum lick to impress people is kind of like your relationship with your drumming, you're probably, I'm surprised you're listening to this podcast to begin with, especially if you've listened to any other episodes, because that's definitely not what we talk about here on this show very much. But there is a third use for these sites, and I think this use, what I'm about to share with you, I think this is the intended use. I think most of the founders of these sites, this is what they wanted. They hope you're using the site for, and I hope that this is what you're using them for. And if you're not, there's a chance for you to start and or maybe go a different direction with what you're doing. And that is this. There are underlying principles. So for example, let's take one of these videos that get posted. They're like, learn this awesome drum fill that you can impress your friends with. A lot of us will learn that drum fill, figure it out, and then just bust it out in the middle of a song, and that's it. That's our extent of how we interact with that drum fill. But I think the best use for this kind of stuff is, yes, go through the process of learning that thing, whatever you're being taught in the video that you're watching. Go ahead and learn it and master it. But all along the way, don't just learn to do that thing and then say, great, I learned how to play that fill. There are so many elements, so many small pieces, movements, unlocking new relationships between your limbs where your left foot is doing something different than it normally does when your right hand is playing eighth notes or whatever it is. There's all these little pieces that I think those little elements that make up the greater sum are actually where the value is in all of these things. It's how can you unlock new pieces of the language? It's not learning how to say, the best kind of metaphor for this is like if you're learning a new language, you could learn, how to say, I took Spanish in high school. That's probably the foreign language I know the most to me. Like you could learn how to say, hello, how are you? I'm doing well. You can learn how to say all of that, and that's a lot of times people learn like full sentences. They learn, hello, how are you? I'm doing well. And they learn how to say those sounds, but they don't actually understand what each individual word in that sentence means. And then they can't use those words in any other sentence because they don't actually know the words, they just know the whole sentence. That's kind of like what these drum fills are like. If you're learning just the fill and you can repeat that fill, you might be missing out on all the little metaphorical words that make up that sentence that you can use in other places. So I think a lot of us can learn a lot by paying close attention to what are those small pieces, what are the things that I'm unlocking in my own drumming as I'm learning this new drum fill, this new lick, this new pattern. It's not just about that pattern. It's about the things you're unlocking within that. And those are the things you need to keep working on. You need to make sure you file those away in your brain and probably use those more often and more frequently than you do the whole big drum fill that you're learning. So again, I think that is probably the intended use for most of this stuff. That's what I think the makers and the creators of these sites hope you'll be using these videos for. But a lot of times I feel like we're missing it, and we end up going for the other two. We end up going to be entertained, or we're addicted to learning, or learn just when we want to learn like the latest cool thing to impress our friends. Which again, none of those are bad if we're honest with ourselves and others about that's what we're doing with these things. But a lot of times we're not being honest with ourselves and others about what we're doing. We say that we're learning something. We say we're doing number 3 of my list of things that we're doing, but really what we're there for is number 1 or number 2 or some combination of those two things. And so if that's you, I want to encourage you to move on and start learning something inside of what you're learning. Learn all the details and go that direction. All right, thank you so much for joining me today on Drummer Daily. I hope that you enjoyed this. Hey, if you have a question that you'd like me to answer or a topic that you'd like for me to cover here on the podcast, I would love for you to let me know. Just send me an email at daniel@danielhadaway.com, or there is a form to contact me at danielhadaway.com. Just fill that out and I will get back to you about that, and I will hopefully work it into an episode of the podcast. All right, thanks for joining me. We'll talk again soon. Bye for now.